Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in, and if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny, and today I'm excited because we're going to talk about five of my favorite knives currently under $300 that you can buy at the time of recording. All five of these knives are currently available, and some of them have affiliate links, some of them don't. If you feel like supporting the channel and you're in the market for one of these awesome knives, feel free to use the links below, and if I have discount codes, I'll do my best to mention them and list them as well. We're going to start off with a really good one that I absolutely had to make another video on. This is the Koby Interflow. That's right, the Interflow, and this is a James Lowe design made by Koby, designed by James Lowe, the same guy who came out with the Kaiser Huntsman, and he's also got a couple other designs out there right now that are pretty freaking cool, but this one specifically is one that speaks to me for a variety of different reasons. The highlights on here is that we have Koby's excellent cryo treat on this M390 blade, which is a compound ground Tanto style blade. I really like the fact that Koby has switched to doing a vacuum cryogenic heat treat, which allows them to get a higher Rockwell hardness on their heat treats. They're estimating that their M390 is now hitting somewhere in the realm of 60 to 62, which is right where you want to see it for M390. On top of that, we've got this really well done frag pattern titanium handle scales. Koby has done a really great job. They have listened to the community. We almost across the board always see T8 hardware everywhere. And if black and gold isn't your thing, you can get it in blue and silver or in natural gray and blue. Personally, I think the black and gold looks the best. On this knife, it is really nice. I'm a big fan of this style of Tanto. I'm not sure if you would call that an American Tanto or not, but it is nice. And for the ergos, we get a really nice locked in grip with this jimping that comes up here to the apex on the spine of the blade. It's very attractive with a bidirectional satin finish, a nice horizontal satin on the flats, and then a regular belt satin on the blade. Action is really good. Thumb studs, flipper is a great deployment option, and these are going to be coming in at about 220, but keep in mind I do have a discount code that is RS20LT, which will get 20% off, meaning that you can take 44 bucks off that. So it's not 220. Use my discount code, save yourself some money. If you like James Lowe designs, this is one of his, which is not too crazy, but still crazy enough to be a bit different. And honestly, I really like it. And then next up, we've got one that I'm a huge fan of. This is a knife which is most definitely in the running, at least on my channel, for Knife of the Year. I'll say it again. I've said it multiple times. I've done multiple videos on this knife. It should be no question why. This is the Vostede Psyop, which is, of course, a collaboration with Tough Knives, Jeff Blauvelt, who's doing really amazing work. And this is one of those knives that I could always find a reason to put it in my pocket. First of which being is that it's just really good looking. Check this out. We've got a hidden pocket clip screw on a pocket clip, which had the opportunity to be stiff, but it's not. T8 hardware all around, single-sided captive pivot with the blue pivot collars, but of course you can also get this in black and gold. And if you're not a fan of the milling, you know, the pineapple frag type milling or the crosshatch milling, you can actually get this in contoured titanium as well for just a little bit better ergos. I really like contoured titanium, but for me, when I bought this one, and yes, I did buy this, they actually did not send this to me for review. I decided that I really liked the milling on the handle scales. But all of that pales in comparison to the fact that this is using Vostede's top liner lock, which for the uninitiated is essentially a compression lock by another name, because even though Spyderco's patent did run out on the compression lock, companies that use that design still have to call it something different. Kind of like when you buy a knife with a crossbar style lock, they're not going to call it the axis lock. you know, even though it is. I'm a huge fan of this big choke up point right here, and that's necessary based on where the blade hits. When it closes, it has to have room for that button, and that's great. Yes, it's a button lock, but it's not a plunge lock. This is a button actuated compression lock, which means that you get, of course, a traditional style detent. You get much better lockup, and that's fantastic. It is a front flipper, and we've got a decent amount of jimping right here. The jimping is well done. It's nice and deep, but not too deep. It's toothy, but not uncomfortable. And then, of course, for everyone who doesn't like front flippers, you do, of course, have a regular old deployment hole. Nice design on the blade. Very slicey cutting geometry. Look at that. Yeah, check that out. That is absolutely gorgeous. The satin finish with the natural gray is really nice. And then, of course, to top it all off, we also have a jimped or geared backspacer. I do wish that that was a little bit longer, but I'm not going to cry too hard about it. This is absolutely one of my favorite knives this year. And even though Vosti is sold out, I do have another couple options, and I will make sure to list one where you can go and pick one of these up if you decide that you want one and you haven't done so yet. The Vosti Psyop, one of my favorite knives this year, hands down. And yeah, we've got another Koby in the house. This is the Koby Blackout, designed by Dmitry Osarenko. Sorry if I got that wrong. Also known as Doc, D-O-C-K, the same guy that made the ever famous Kaiser October. Doc has some really great designs out there, and this one, of course, is no exception. Beautiful, beautiful look on this specific one with the natural raw titanium handle scales, T8 hardware. And have I already mentioned Koby has some of the best heat treat in the game? M390 blade, and it's not the sliciest edge geometry out there, but it will actually get nice and sharp right there behind the edge. It's not too terribly thick right there either, but it's also, of course, thick enough to offer some really nice durability. So if you were to go ahead and decide that you wanted to put this through something, you could absolutely do so. Now, for the deployment options, it's pretty good actually. You have your choice of deployment hole or thumb stud, and something that I'm a really big fan of is just how nice and smooth the action is. It's really broken in well during my time with this knife, and I also really enjoy the ergos as well because it's kind of a pick your own story. I can get a full 4-finger grip on here, no problem, no lanyard needed, no fob needed whatsoever, and in a regular saber type grip, it is going to fit just fine. I think that the milling here is cool, kind of like the broken earth look. That's something that I'm a fan of as well. And then, of course, T8 hardware. What's not to love? The Koby Blackout, just like with the Interflow, starts at $220. Of course, use my discount code RS20LT. Get yourself 20% off, immediately take 44 bucks off. This is a good one, and I think that a lot of people are sleeping on the Blackout, and they really shouldn't be because it's such a fun knife to carry. It's small, but it's not too small, and it gets you a really good carry in the pocket day in and day out. Absolutely no issue with the tension on that pocket clip. And oh yeah, hidden pocket clip screw. A lot of people are sleeping on it. Don't be one of those people. And I count myself lucky to be one of those who actually got one of these in for review. This is the DC Blades CEDO. Yeah, the DC Blade CEDO. I've been waiting on this knife for quite a while, actually. It was originally announced about a year ago, and now they're not in pre-order anymore. You can actually go ahead and order these right away, and you might actually want to. And I'm going to say that because they did a very small batch limited run of these. They're only making 120, and that's it. That's it. If they're successful, they might do a round 2, but honestly, I wouldn't count on it. I really like this ceramic nano coating that they have on these titanium handle scales. And then, of course, the inlay work is well done as well. It's not a huge knife, but of course, I can also get a full 4-finger grip, no problem. You can kind of trigger pull that flipper tab, but there's a few things that make this specific knife really nice for me. The first is going to be that deployment. It's extremely clicky, and I don't know how to really describe it. You just hear that click. It's very fresh when you go ahead and deploy it. Breaking the detent is extremely satisfying. I would consider this to be a miniature Bowie style blade, but it's really nice. It gets very slicey right there, right behind the edge. So for regular cutting tasks, it's going to do you well. And you might be looking at this saying, oh, great. you know, a PVD blade. No, this is actually DLC. And I know that some of you are going to immediately say, well, is it true DLC in the comment section? So while I don't necessarily condone doing this, I'm going to go ahead and test out that DLC on this blade. And you know what? We'll go ahead and use a utility cutter. Why not? Why not? Now, if this is PVD coating, I should be able to scratch it with a regular box cutter utility blade. PVD does not hold up against other metals scratching against it. However, DLC coating on blades does, because DLC is going to have a harder exterior than your regular knife steel, somewhere in the 80 range. So you shouldn't be able to scratch DLC coating with something like a utility cutter. So let's go ahead and do that. No scratches. Yes, guys, this is in fact real DLC. Come at me in the comment section if you want. I wasn't able to scratch it. I've done that test multiple times. Based on how it's applied to the blades, it comes out looking different. Sometimes you can get it in a mirror polish. Sometimes it comes out in more of a matte finish like this, or like on your run-of-the-mill Spydercos. Either way, T8 hardware all the way around, ceramic bearings, a really nice snappy action. All the comfort of life type things are good on here. The only thing that I'm not the biggest fan of is the height on that pocket clip. That's a little shallow on the height, and I do wish that they were going to make it a little bit taller so it would be a little less stiff. But aside from that, DC Blades has told me that they're actually going to be providing risers for this pocket clip, which should get rid of that altogether, making this one of my favorite knives that I've handled all year. It's extremely satisfying to carry, comfortable in the hand, great action, great materials, nano ceramic coating on the titanium handle scales that are fluted, DLC coated blade, M390. What's not to love? And then last but not least, we've got one which is highly underrated. This is, of course, the Monster Aurora Rays. Say Aurora Rays 5 times fast, and you might just sound like you're howling at the moon, but I wouldn't blame you, because this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm not usually the biggest fan of flipper only blades, but Monster is making it a comeback with this one, because this is absolutely gorgeous. M390 blade, which they're saying is 60 to 62 Rockwell. We've got heavily milled titanium handle scales with, of course, a geared back spacer, 3D milled titanium pocket clip, T8 hardware all the way around, which is nice, and a very, very nice action. The blade is not only hand satin finished, but it's also this gorgeous drop point, spear point, harpoon style blade, which has really excellent cutting geometry as well. It's very slicey. It's nice and thin there behind the edge of the blade, and it doesn't get too thick here on the blade spine either, meaning that not only is this going to be great for piercing, it's also going to be great for slicing. It's going to be one of those knives that's going to fit in a lot of different scenarios. This is absolutely gorgeous, and while they are listed at $266, this is another one that I have a discount code for. Code Rollshambo is 10% off, and I can tell you guys that in that price range, you take $26 off of this and it gets you right under that $250 mark. This is one of those which is hard to beat in that price range. There's not a lot of $250 knives where you can get hand satin finish, or these nicely heavily milled sunburst style handle scales. The ergos on here are great. You can trigger pull it, no problem. And while I do wish that there was some jimping right there, but there's not, it's a really smooth, beautiful design. It's not super heavy because we have internally milled out handle scales. The frame lock is nice and sturdy, and the action is really good. This kind of reminds me of something that Herman Knives would make, but of course they didn't. If they did, it would cost you somewhere in the realm of $800 to $1,000. Aren't you glad that you can pick this up for under $250? Definitely one of the more underrated knives released this year. The Monster Aurora Rays is definitely all killer, no filler, and I highly recommend, if you haven't tried one yet, you definitely want to do so. But now I'm curious to see what you guys think. What do you think of these 5 knives? Do you have any of these? Are you planning on picking any of these up? Are all of them a pass for you? Let me know in the comment section down below, as well as which one is, of course, your favorite. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure to smash that subscribe button. And by the way, if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, feel free to click on one of the videos that pops up next.